a skills transfer between partners within local charities. Some of the partner organizations have a spot training service, saving each thousands of dollars in external training costs. But no leadership program alumni have taken their new skills to other organizations in the communities, and that was a risk we faced from Science North and the municipal government. NLP alumni have created and delivered internal training programs to build skills back at their home organizations. To date, more than 140 people from 14 different partner organizations in 4 different cities in the region have participated. The community partners include, as I said, both private and public sector organizations, including mining, technology, and supply companies and post-secondary schools. The program will begin its 8th cohort in May of 2020. So again, as I said at the beginning, I think and believe our field is collegiate, it's collaborative. We are trusted organizations. We play an important role in society. We have a unique value proposition to offer. We play key roles in developing those relationships to strengthen the bonds within our organizations, our institutions, and within our networks. And we have an opportunity to be strong leaders, not only in our community, but in fact on a global perspective. Once again, I'd like to thank the organizers of this summit for inviting me. I want to also recognize and acknowledge the leaders who will be also speaking at this conference. And certainly, but not least, I want to thank the individuals who have attended the network of science museums and science centers here in Korea. It's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your questions as well. Thank you.
다시 한번 큰 박수를 부탁드리겠습니다. 바로 이어서 대담을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 대담은 기조 강연해주신 기라빈님과 이정무 서울시립과학관장님께서 해주시겠습니다. 이정무 관장님 자리해주셨습니다. 이정무 서울시립관장님을 따뜻한 박수로 맞아주시기 바랍니다.
네, 서울시립과학관의 이정무입니다. 네, 목표가 AO 공부들이니까 아주 멀리서 오셨을까? 아까 지도를 보니까 대서양가에서 그 다음에 대륙을 건너서 태평양을 완전히 건너서 여기까지 오셨어요. 돌아가시고 그다음에 돌아가셨는데 여기에 좋은 경험을 여러분 아까 미리 그 카카오톡에서 질문을 올리게 돼 있잖아요. 제가 거의 하나도 물어보셨어요. 혹시 제게 잘못된 건지 잘 모르겠습니다. 그래서 같이 강연을 들은 다음에 이야기들을 조금씩 나눠보고 합니다. 제가 궁금한 게 되게 많습니다. 우리 주가 그 문화의 플랫폼으로서의 과학관, 한국말로는 과학 문화라고 하는 오한 표현을 쓰게 되고요. 도대체 과학 문화라는 건 사람들이 생각하기에 과학과 문화는 상당히 거리가 있다고 생각하는데 과학이 어떻게 문화의 중심이 될지 생각이 있습니다. 저를 보고 직접 영어로 하시라고. 지금 보니까 안 쓰고 계셨네요. 처음부터 다시 하겠습니다. 네. 아까 일찌감치 궁합관 말씀 다 했고요. 그래서 진짜 곧장을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 지금 우리의 주제가 과학 문화의 플랫폼으로서의 과학관입니다. 과학과 문화 사이에 기본적으로 어떤 관계가 있다고 생각합니다. 우리는 보통 과학과 문화는 상당히 거리가 먼 거라고 생각하거든요. 최근에 들어서야 과학과 문화가 결점이 있고 과학과 이 집안 사람들의 보통 문화에 침투되고 서로 간에 침투를 해야 된다고 생각하고 있는 정도입니다. 근데 상당히 많은 일을 해 놓으신 걸 봐가지고 일찌감치 과학과 문화의 어떤 관계를 고민하셨던 것 같아요. 과학과 보통 삶의 문화 사이는 구체적으로 어떤 관련이 있다고 처음 생각합니다.
I should start by saying I believe science is culture. And in fact, the ability for science museums and science centers to be able to celebrate that is important, whether it's the merging of art, the ability for us, I mean, we witnessed culture before my keynote address with our two individuals that, or three individuals that were on stage, the ability for communities to recognize science centers as a place to engage in programming, in activities, and in relationships maybe that are not traditionally seen as relevant to science centers and science museums, but the ability for those institutions and those organizations to take a more broader view to how to bring audiences in and be able to encourage dialogue, conversation, programming, exhibits, films, a variety of platforms, so that the lines between science and culture are more, not blurred, but the links between both are more evident, more transparent, probably more.
보셨겠지만 우리나라도 그런 과학 문화는 꽤 일찍 시작했고 상당히 좀 활발하게 되어 있어요. 그래서 많은 사람들이 되게 과학을 친숙하게 받아들입니다. 그걸 우리는 그냥 과학의 대중화라고 많이 표현을 해요. 근데 그 운동이 이미 1980년부터 시작을 했고요. 그런데 저희가 반성하는 게 뭐냐면 수십 년 동안 이런 문화적인 활동을 해왔는데, 그러니까 과학은 충분히 대중들에게 쉽게 접근을 해 왔는데 수십 년간을 지난 다음에도 대중들의 과학적인 그 감수성의 수준들은 받아들이는 수용 능력들은 그다지 높아지지 않았다는 그 반성들을 하고 있거든요. 그렇다면 우리 하염없이 대중의 문화로만 들어갈 수는 없고 어떻게 해야 이 문화를 통해서 대중들을 더 위로 끌어올릴 수가 있습니다.
I'm trying to think how many years ago now. This is, I think, 9 years ago. Rudika in Helsinki actually led an international study that included 17 science museums and science centers from around the world. There were 4 Canadian institutions, 1 American, the rest were international. To be able to quantify and measure the role science centers and science museum in informal STEM education. But that study also went beyond simply looking at that particular role. It looked at how science centers made and science museum made science more accessible, more relevant, and more connected. How it encouraged individuals to be able to either pursue an interest in science, education, a career, or at least be more receptive to science. And I think one of the challenges that we, both an opportunity and a challenge, one of the challenges that we face is in an environment that is becoming more cluttered is not the right word, but where there's a significant spirit of innovation in different approaches to how we connect science with society. And the ability for that to become very blurred is a challenge. The opportunity again is the safe space that we create. The fact that our field respects and appreciates and values the work that science centers and science museums provide. and the ability for that to be a platform that allows for a more open dialogue, a more trusted environment, the ability to push boundaries in terms of how we encourage. I really believe that our field needs to play a stronger leadership role in being able to quantify, in being able to measure, to quantify, to track, and be able to tell those stories on a repeated basis at a variety of levels to a variety of stakeholders, whether they are our audiences, whether they are partners, whether they are ourselves, local governments, political leaders, industry, other influencers, stakeholders, in a growing environment where resources is challenging. I think it's an important step to go back to the leadership role of Vidika in leading that work, in doing that on a more regular and even a wider basis. I think is really critical in being able to demonstrate our role in society.
예, 비슷한 이야기 한 번 더 하겠습니다. 과학관이 문화의 플랫폼이 된다는 거예요. 많은 사람, 다른 문화의 영역이 과학관으로 들어온다는 거잖아요. 그렇다면 동시에 그들이 들어오기 위해서는 그 신뢰를 줘야 될 거고, 과학관도 마찬가지로 과학관이 아닌 다른 문화 영역으로 많이 나가야 했을 것 같아요. 그렇다면 사이언스 센터에서는 그 지역의 사람들을 부르기 전에, 다른 내부들을 부르기 전에 먼저 나가는 입장 노력을 했을 텐데, 예를 들면 어떤 거를 말씀해 주세요?
Well, the partnerships that I talked about, one of them is pretty interesting. So there's a project in Sudbury. So again, Sudbury is a mining community. They drill into the ground 2 kilometers deep to bring ore to the surface that is rich in nickel deposits. Yeah, so very simple. You drill holes, you blast, the rock breaks, you bring it to the surface, you smelt it, and it produces nickel. Physicists in the community at the university wanted to create a laboratory that is shielded from environments to be able to detect neutrinos. So a very interesting concept that was developed almost 40 years ago. In fact, Stephen Hawking came to our community to open this laboratory. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars. It's located 2 kilometers underground. And in fact, it led to a Nobel Prize in Physics 3 years ago. Very few people have an opportunity to witness it and go there. So we created a visitor experience that tells that story. There are, at any given time, there are 20 or 30 researchers from around the world. And the ability for us to take their content, very complicated, very intense, and not one that's very easy to understand, and communicate it to a broad audience to make it not necessarily simple, but to talk about the importance of why this research is important to society, what role it's playing, but at the same time be able to broaden and disseminate that content to a 8-year-old elementary school child or a 70-year-old individual. And I'm quite proud of the work that we've done in engaging with that project in our community.
네, 감사합니다. 저희가 항상 아쉬워하는 점들이 과학관과 실제 과학자들 사이에 커뮤니케이션이 그렇게 많지 않다는 거고요. 저희가 이제 많이 시도하는 것들은 지역의 과학 교사들의 우리의 과학관의 고객이 되고 그들에게 많이 소개하고 또 그들이 우리 과학관의 프로그램을 많이 개발해서 학생들을 좀 데리고 오고 그런 모습을 만들려고 하는데 아까 되게 궁금했던 게 1,500만 명이 방문을 한다고요. 근데 캐나다에 인구가 있는데 그 1,500만이라는 숫자가 내가 잘못 들은 건가요? 아니면 정말로 1,500만 명이 방문을 하고 있는 건가요?
That's an aggregate number, about 400,000 visitors per year. But it's still a large number when you think of the community only has 160,000 people. And again, I think a couple of key pieces to why that is successful, because of the capacity to change, but also going back to the point that not only, I think, science centers in general, science museum, are seen as a place that can be trusted, a safe place, and the ability for us to engage with audiences with that as a platform is really important.
네, 마지막에 설명하신 그 NLP, 리더십 프로그램에 대해 설명을 받았습니다. 그런 리더십 프로그램을 과학감이 중심이 돼서 진행한다는 게 되게 크겠어요. 그렇다면 그 리더십 프로그램에서의 그 프로그램에서 과학이 차지하는 비중은 어느 정도 됩니까?
Well, the science is really the only piece is that our institution is leading the program. The program is really focused on individual becoming stronger leaders. Initially, the program, I thought we would start it within our institution only. And I and a few other people actually who are here participated in an initiative called the NOISE Leadership Program, which supported leadership development in the science center field for 7 years. And I was so inspired by that program, I wanted to create one within the confines of our science center only. And after talking to the university, to the city and the hospital, they all expressed an interest and a need to have stronger leaders within their institutions. And that really was the starting point. And so, in fact, it's not about science, it's about creating links amongst the organizations to have a program that really has a core value of the need for individuals to be strong leaders. Whether you're leading a science center, a municipality, a hospital, a private sector company, leadership principles cross those boundaries, and the ability for us to leverage that has been really important. And it makes us appear differently to our community than we did before we started the program.
시간이 많지 않은데요. 제가 하나만 더 하고 그다음에 플로어에 기회를 드리도록 하겠습니다. 일단 과학관 내부의 이야기를 좀 해보겠습니다. 과학관에도 꽤 많은 과학자들이 있고 사이언스 커뮤니케이터로 활동을 하고 있습니다. 사이언스 커뮤니케이션은 스킬도 중요하지만 항상 새로운 과학들을 다시 흡수하고 교육받는 기회가 많이 필요할 것 같은데요. 그 내부 과학자들을 위한 교육 프로그램 또는 연수 프로그램들이 활발히 진행되고 있다.
That's a great question. And I think there's 3 key components. The first is we invest heavily on an annual basis in the professional development of our staff, whether it's attending conference or allowing those individuals to be able to pursue specific training that they believe is important for them to do better at their job. So, I mean, we invest 250,000 Canadian dollars, which is a significant amount. Almost 1% of our global budget in professional development. And we do that in an environment sometimes that we are challenged in being able to invest those resources, but it's such an important piece to individuals having access to training and development. The second is we do intensive across the organization training at key moments of the year. Our busy tourism season and visitors is in March and in the summertime, and we will organize 4-hour training seminars with all of our staff. And the third is once a year, 1 day a year, our entire organization, 110 salaried staff off-site to do team building and to do professional development with those individuals. And it could be everything from cultural sensitivity training, because we have a large indigenous population in our community, to focused work on a key area that we want to develop in the coming year. We're a learning institution. We encourage lifelong learning with our employees. And I think that translates into their ability and their willingness to engage with our audiences. So as a visitor, you could come to Science North with our Blue Coat staff, and you can spend a minute, or you could spend 1 hour engaging that individual in the conversation, and that's a really important principle, I think, to our success.
네, 감사합니다. 혹시 플로어에서 질문하실 분이 계십니까? 예.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to introduce my name. My name is Agus Budi Rahmanto. I come from Jakarta Science Center, Indonesia. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to coming here, because this topic is very good. Talking about Science Museum as a platform of culture. According to the best of my knowledge, the connection between, when we are talking about science, science is like the future, and culture is like our past. So we have any connection between the future and the past. Talking about science is talking about the future, our future, but talking about the culture, maybe we talk about our past. But we have any connection between science and culture. If I give the imagination, a tree. In a tree, there are 3 points. The first point is the root, the body, and the leaf or the fruit. So the root is our culture. It is like what we just say, nation without the culture or the local wisdom, it is like the tree without the root. So what do you think? What is the connection between the science, the future, and the culture? And when we are talking about the resilient communities, the society have their own culture, and how to connect between science and culture, it has become the platform of culture. And talking about the culture, as I said, it is like the tree. The body is like the platform, and the tree, the leaves, the fruits, it is like the result of the science. So every nation, every science center influence our past, present, and the future. So in the globalist nation, in the global area, you know that the culture will be made from the connection between country into among the countries, because you know that there is no culture again because the globalization. I think this place is how to make formula between Science Museum as a platform of culture, and how the question is how to make Science Museum as a hub of the culture, and how we make to encourage the community to make the religious communities. I think that's the question. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I think there's several key parts to that question. The first is the mission and the mandate and the values of the institutions that we develop in our science museums and science centers. is the recognition of why we exist and what we want to achieve. The second is the people that work in science museums. We talked earlier about the need for continuous and ongoing investments in our people. The third, I think, is the connections that we create within the communities and the organizations that we impact. And I don't mean just the physical areas that we serve, but the broader community. And I think the last point is using the International Science Center and Science Museum Day as an example, is a collective strength of our institutions and the ability for us to celebrate the work that we do together, the ability for that to be recognized, the links it creates amongst organizations, the ability for us to have a significant impact on broadening the understanding of a concept or a principle or a certain element is important. And those things are not limited, to the future or the past. I think they are interlinked. And again, one of the key parts of that is the individuals that work in our respective institutions or organizations, wherever they are.
네, 시간이 됐습니다. 좀 아쉽긴 하지만 여기서 이야기를 마쳐야 될 것 같고요. 또 멀리서 오셔서 우리에게 좋은 플레이 주신 기 라빈 선생님께 다시 한번 박수를 부탁드립니다.